To determine the best nether biome, I made 100 players survive in each of them. Warped having access to wood and enderman drops, while Basalt is stuck with lava pits and magma. Worst part is there's such a hardcore mode, so avoiding death is the only way to prove the biome's worth. We start out in the Crimson Biome, where players explore the village, caves, and most importantly, the Nether Fortress. Each island has a giant fortress that houses the first of the netherite gear to be found. The biggest struggle of being on this island are the mobs. Having a hoglin chase you down while you have no gear is probably one of the most terrifying things to happen. On the Warped Island, players found the caves no problem and started gearing up. The first island that can get to the center and defeat the Wither will have a huge upper hand. If the Beast of the Nether is defeated, players are allowed one of 3 items: a netherite block, 3 totems of undying, or a teammate revive. So you have the opportunity to rule the event upon choosing correctly. Back to the teams, the Soul Valley Island had a similar issue with mobs as the Crimson team did. Players were being relentlessly chased around while trying to gather food and resources. Eventually, players banded together to take on their foe and ward them off for now. It won't be the last we see of these abusive hoglins, however. Over with the Crimson players, things seemed peaceful, being able to run around with their beautiful island without worry of much death. That was all until a player went rogue and caused the death of 2 of his teammates. Unto figured that his chances of success in the event would skyrocket if he was on his own and bed-bombed his own team. Harvs and Romeo caught the explosive end of this item and were taken out from the game. All I hope is that their team won't stand for it and avenge the fallen players. While that unfortunate event happened, part of the team was ventured to the Nether Fortress and found the not-so-hidden netherite. This is only a taste of the substance spread out across the entire map, as teams have hidden deposits of the ore all around the island. All they have to do is find it, then I assume we'll see some of the most stacked teams possible. On the Basalt team, players also ventured into their castle. Some found chests filled with food and netherite, while other players expelled their efforts to the top of the tower for a mere netherite block. Probably worth it, however, as rushing into battle with only diamond armor could be the greatest mistake while in the nether. Or it could literally just be not having any diamond armor at all. It seems the players on the Soul Island were quite literally the slowest at gearing up possible. They are going to end up never wanting to leave the island's safety, or they might just become the most geared team in due time. Unless somehow the Crimson Island is able to enchant, which they apparently are. I made getting an enchant table extremely difficult in this event, but somehow the Crimson team was able to muster up the resources and make a level 30 enchant table. They even found a hidden lapis deposit deep in the center of the fortress. It could allow them to be the strongest team if they do end up finding their other hidden treasure, netherite. Exactly like the Warp team has already done by completely gearing out their team in full netherite. We have 2 teams one step away from being the absolute best, but at this point, I might want to root for the Warp team with this setup. Okay, definitely now that I've seen a man rocking full gold in complete confidence. Since teams are finally gearing up, I expect to see players make their way towards the center and fight the boss. Although maybe some players might be at a slight disadvantage, what being in iron armor somehow. With all this possible loot on every single island, there is absolutely no way I could have saw this outcome. But just when I thought all teams were in a silent standstill, a small uprising grew within the Warped community. When I went to go check on them, I found 2 players standing over the dead bodies of Vadoofy Poof and Wilding. Apparently Schnell and Owen wanted to stir up some mischief while causing the team much grief. The death of Wilding is probably one of the biggest moves that could have happened in this event, as in other events he normally takes on the leadership role, even scaring me at some points. With the news getting back to his team, 3 players in full netherite began to hunt them down, chasing them all around the island, but with nowhere to run, eventually they caught up. When the fight began, I had high hopes for the resistance, but Owen was quickly pushed off the hill by Sharper, ending his life with a single blow at the bottom. And his teammate Dynamics didn't hesitate to do the exact same thing to Schnell, putting the resistance all the way in the past. I guess all of their work is now just 2 more netherite sets for the team. And while part of the Warp team fought off Wilding's killers, the other half made it all the way to the Wither's castle. They were contemplating spawning it in, and what would even be the goal? Revive Wilding, gain extra lives, or have more of the most precious material in the game? Well, after careful consideration, players one by one put down their Wither heads they possessed, with Titan asking the final question.
Are we ready to do this?
Yeah, do it before they come.
Do it.
He raced to put down the head, summoning the scariest creature in the realm. While it charged up, one thing popped into the players' heads.
Oh yeah, we don't have
We're all
rolls,
dead.
actually.
We're all dead. Okay,
Let's run.
With that knowledge, the greatest mistake was made, summoning a flying creature with only being able to stab him. Such a great oversight. The Wither quickly started targeting all of the Warp players, giving them a run for their money and completely shattering their confidence in the fight. Before we see how quickly these players fall to the Wither, I checked back in on the only other team I see with success, the Crimson team. Players were fully enchanted and making moves to go towards the center of the map. But the Soul Valley had the exact same idea, with players lined up in netherite and diamond armor. They had all the gear needed to succeed as a team, but if they went now, they might run into the Wither, and I don't think anyone is ready for him. However, in my absence, the Warp team has come up with a strategy to fight off the Wither. Once one person hits the Wither, it will then target that player, so if they make a way to trap the Wither at a specific height, they can deal damage and have players rotate on hitting him over and over. It did kind of work using one of the towers inside the castle as a way to staircase their way back up and constantly barrage him with sword swiping. The Warp team was eventually able to slowly deal damage, causing the Wither to hit half health and drop to the floor. Now that they had gotten rid of the weakness they had against the Wither, it was a massacre. That man did not last long. What was once a feared opponent in the light of many was struck down in its prime by the Warp team. Once all the smoke had cleared, one player had the Wither Star, and a choice of a lifetime. A. Get one netherite block, furthering the gear up of his team. B. Take 3 totems of undying, granting extra lives for your members. Or C. Revive a teammate you have lost in battle. As a professional, I know what I would have taken, the totems, duh. 3 of these players can survive an unimaginable fate, making the team so much stronger. But instead, we get to see Wilding rise from the ashes. Yes, indeed, they revived Wilding, a player killed in the Resistance, and hopefully someone who can turn the tides of the event, allowing his team the win. Back at the Crimson Island, I'm starting to think these players may never leave. However, in that time, I noticed a few more pieces of netherite added to their roster, meaning they could still take out a powerhouse team like Warped. Although, if the level 30 enchant table is truly being used as a level 30, maybe having some Prot 3 and 4 armor could just overpower Warped for them, as regular netherite is the exact same as Prot 2 diamond, and level 30 is sure to grant a better tier of items. At the Soul Island, I noticed a bridge to middle, however the players are still on the island just gearing up. They had taken advantage of the nether trades in hopes of getting a return on investment. What could they possibly be wanting? Fire res, pearls, maybe just books? The idea behind it seemed questionable at best, however if they are this stacked then I can only assume they plan to survive the lava if ever needed. Okay, look, how do I explain this? I was not doing what you think I was doing. We were all hanging out in Call, having a good time, and this just happened. Do I know why they were throwing diamonds at me? No, I do not. I don't mind it, though. I feel like they think I will reward them for this behavior, but instead, I'm gonna just happily steal their goods and dip back to another team without a care in the world. With the Basalt team, I see they've geared up a lot from before. No longer are they rocking iron and diamond armor at best, they're all in full netherite. I haven't run the numbers, but in my eyes, the remaining players seem to all be on this team. The overthrow of power at the middle of the map would be amazing. It'd be a spectacle to see, if they ever left their island. Before I dip from this team, I also may or may not have stolen their music disc. Okay, I didn't mean to. Someone broke the jukebox on me and I happened to steal it. I was gonna give it back to them till I disappeared and totally shocked the players, putting their most valuable item into the void. Just kidding, I told them I would give it back or give them a totem. Of course, they chose a totem, because that's what... Oh, wait, they didn't write. They're idiots. Okay, they wanted the music back. The smart choices, fair play, fair play. However, they did begin to march to middle, the second team to see the Castle Island, which is massive, by the way. I don't think I've pointed it out much, but look at this thing. It is a huge tower. But the main point is that we can finally see some players build out towards the center. And by build out, I mean create the largest bridge possible. Then a player by the name of Amok decided to give a speech, reaching out to his fellow players and touching their hearts before the thick of battle.
Are we gonna fight for justice? Or are we gonna die?
You know the Wither's already dead, right?
Oh, really? Oh.
The impromptu leader put to shame as he and his team crossed the bridge to the center. I don't know how he didn't already know that, it was in chat and everything. But the team didn't seem to mind the dumbness and continued to the island. Most scared players holding fire res in case of either a betrayal or just falling off, you never know in my events. However, they did make it to the center safely, being the second team to finally leave their base. Can I really blame them with the amount of lava I put everywhere? With the players finally exploring other islands, this means multiple teams are existing on the same plane. Hopefully Basalt is ready for a fight. They made their way to the castle gate and entered the Wither's chamber. By now, the Warp team had left this area, but I did pose an interesting question. Do you want to fight the Wither? Of course, without backing down, they said yes, and I built them the option of spawning in a terrifying beast once more. Derpy Dino ran for the head and made the decision to spawn it in, correctly, but he did get it in the second try, introducing the Wither to the realm once more. My issue with this is if the warp team is still on the island, they might see the boss bar and take the star for themselves, as long with all of their lives. The Basalt team quickly ran into the same problem as the last Wither. It can fly and they have swords. All until I began to see arrows flying across the arena. A few players used the string and spectral arrows from piglin trades to form a weapon capable of taking down the Wither. Not sure why Warp didn't do this actually. It led the Basalt team to the second Wither star, and much faster than the Warp team I might add. The player in the possession of either totems, netherite, or life itself was Eggy Racer. How do you guys come up with these names? With him being the player to have picked up the totem, I gave him the choice, and he picked Mr. Joe. Another teammate. Do you not understand the concept of 3 totems? Alright, fine, whatever, Joe is back in the field, you're welcome. Let's hope other players are using some brain cells elsewhere. On the other side of the map, Lit Gamers team Crimson had finally gotten together enough gear to advance towards middle. Don't ask me why they've been enchanting for so long, they just were. As the team emerged from the caves, Wilding showed up, a solo player looking to take out an entire team apparently. As he fought his way through the team, no one was phased and thought they had chased off a lone attacker. But that's when, through a puff of smoke, the entire Warp team showed up for Wilding and began the real attack. They used the old Trojan horse strategy if the horse was alive and it was Wilding. This led to clashings of the unsuspecting Crimson players in the cave with a huge downfall in player count. Lit Gamer did his absolute best to get away, taking out Dynamics and putting up a huge fight with the Nether mobs, but later fell to an attempted Pearl, causing almost all of the Crimson players' extinction within a blink of an eye. That allowed the Warp players access to the enchant table and to sift through the immense loot pool of players for the coveted Lapis. While the purge of the Crimson team took place, I met back with the Basalt players staring down the Soul Valley Island. 15 players had gathered in a 1x1 bridge to go attack the Soul team, a team that's bound themselves to their island and a team that was also on the bridge. Somehow we see 2 teams at a standoff right above the largest pit to be seen. With each team in a standoff, arrows flying, one player, Derpy Dino, rushed in, doing the best for his team, showing that he is not afraid, exclaiming the overall power of the Basalt team. Okay, so that didn't go well, but I mean, I guess he started the push even if he sacrificed it all to do so. Another player took the leader approach, but when things got choppy, he backed away. With each team above lava and apparently lacking fire res, the battle was at a halt. Soul retreated, and Basalt seemed mortified at the death of Dino. But slowly they pushed on to find solid ground to be under them. Once making it to the end of the bridge, Noah was able to knock a Soul player into the lava, but followed close behind. Then an all-out brawl took place with players dropping into the extreme heat 1x1 or 3 at a time. After so many players were lost in the process, the Basalt team made it to the Soul Island finally. With the clear player lead, they chased down who they needed to and finished off the easier team, or so I would have predicted, as some players were able to survive the onslaught. Like Dino, somehow this man was back in the game. He must have survived his terrible idea from earlier and made it to the island to fight with his team. Until some remaining Soul players took him out with his own Pearl. I guess Soul was much stronger than I thought and took out the same player twice, forcing what remained of the Basalt players back to the bridge as the invasion had failed. But it wasn't concluded, as a Soul player had somehow been tasked with waiting for them. The Basalt players, not wanting to be hit off, retreated again back to the island to be met with more of their original killers. Out of time and out of options, 3 of them ran to the solo player who would be able to jump down and knock off one of the players into lava. With only a few remaining Basalt players at the middle, the 2 seemed safe until lag froze one of them and he was critted out on the bridge. The Basalt team backed onto the castle island and Soul followed close behind. But we can see one more team right in the middle of it. Warped had finally made it back to middle and were enchanting all of the netherite gear that had been playing the whole time. With 3 teams all in one spot, chaos could be tragic. The Soul Valley team rushed inside the castle not knowing the wiser and were instantly pushed back by the Warped squadron. They chased them through the halls and back up to their original bridge on the island, with every player scared for their lives and only a few of them truly wanting a fight. Those players from the Soul team rushed back in to take them on, once again leading in failure. all until a player got stuck on their side and was crit out, leading to the first casualty of this war. With that news, Titan and Zelk raced back through, destroying Kiwi, forcing him to try and pearl away until he was bowed down to death. Soul finally retreated to the top of the castle and Warped resumed activities. However, an unknown player with no shield or identification showed up and just got waffle stomped into the ground. I guess it pays to be blue. After that, I wanted to see all that had happened after the Crimson team's decimation, and I found one single player left on the whole team, Runner Boy, still only in full diamond and holding out all hope for his team. If he dies, so will the legacy of the Crimson Biome, cutting them from the best possible biome list. Back with Basalt, we only find a few more members, Corncur and Spaceball at the top of their castle. If they're truly all that's left of this team, they have a lot to live up to, and hopefully they'll do us proud. However, with teams all in a standstill, Crimson alone on a bridge, Basalt hiding on a tower, and Soul Valley back on their island, Warped harboring the middle, only one thing was to happen, and that was the last event. The closure of the map, the fall of the border, or what I like to call, watching people run from light. The first team to really be hit by this was the Soul Valley. Only once leaving their island, they'll have to run to the bridge and find a spot to settle within the castle. Some players didn't even seem to notice as the border quickly closed on them, leaving behind the enchant table and hours worth of trading. However, most of the players seemed to make it out, if not leaving behind a few stragglers. Back with Warped, hardly even caring what was to come, they had made a place for a beacon if they wanted to fight another Wither, but I still don't think they fear anyone on the list as they are clearly the most stacked team left with a huge numbers advantage. The Soul players made their way into the walls of the castle, gathering wool and wood for a bed bomb strategy, possibly the only way to win the event. However, since this border won't stop until a winner, Soul was forced to begin the build right above the Warped team. Warped easily has the advantage in gear, skill, player count, but beds can put an end to all of that. They made it to the top of one of the towers and just watched for the perfect moment to strike. Vin saw the opportunity and had to take it, attempting to bed bomb Sharper. However, with only one teammate following him, the bed bomb only worked against him and he was crit out before any more damage could be done, and for his fellow teammate, well, he tried the same thing and died to Sharper as well, just making it known that the Warp team was undefeated. Undefeated enough to get to the top of the tower and force down the rest of the Soul team. Some players were close to a bed bomb, but didn't make it through, dying in a corner surrounded by blue men. My nightmare. All teams lost as Soul is the first team to be out and placed as the worst Nether biome. But we might soon see why Warped is the best, as only 3 other players remained, 2 from Basalt and 1 from the Crimson team. Runner was still at the very top of the castle, while Korn and Dimitri were all the way under. Warped split off into 2 teams, 1 up and 1 down to find the remaining players. They didn't last very long as Korn was quickly burned to death by Titan, who just torqued on his body for some reason. Then Runner Boy, who was bed bombed off his platform and karate chopped to death from the fall by Lagoted, Lit Gamer's killer and a powerhouse of the Warped faction. That means only 1 player remained, Dimitri, and in his attempt to fight Titan off, he burned to death, meaning Basalt was second and Warped had just won the event. After a long decided victory, the best biome is Warped, and I honestly agree with that, followed by Basalt in second, Crimson in third, and Soul Valley standing strong as the worst biome in this dimension. If you want to be in future videos, make sure to go join the Discord down below. New events are happening all the time. There could be one even right now. As always, thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Buy the merch, it's a great Christmas gift. Anyway, be safe and peace out, everybody.